Previously on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
We can't do this anymore. This is just too much. This is too hard for us to do. The tools that we work with are really hard to deal with. It's hard for us to make this much content. It's just hard making content in general. And they said, we are going to do a drip feed of smaller stuff, and we're going to put up the Eververse, sell microtransactions, and make money that way. And Activision said, okay. It was part of their renegotiated deal.
Weapon and armor retirement is happening for 2 reasons and 2 reasons alone. And here we get to the point in the shape of the tooth. 1, so Bungie can, in future content, try to incentivize people to buy and play new content by offering them a Spare Rations 2.0, or a Beloved 2.0, or a Mindbenders 2.0. We know this is reality because it's what Bungie has been doing for the better part of half a decade. I mean, realistically, how many times can Bungie sunset and then reissue weapons again and again and again before it gets boring to grind them out? That just comes off as unrewarding and unsatisfying. Seems like a super repetitive loot hamster wheel.
Getting loot is really damn exciting. It's a satisfying feeling. What is this gonna enable me to do? What did I win? What ability? How's this gonna look?
I honestly think they should reissue all gear, get rid of sunsetting, and go back to the drawing board. I was in support of sunsetting at the beginning, but said there had to be as much new gear as there was gear leaving. In my opinion, reissuing is not new. Time for a new solution. Gathalion. I honestly think sunsetting plus reissuing a gear is the final straw for me. Stasis pretty much ruined the game for me, but I haven't cared about gear in Destiny in years at this point. It doesn't seem to be changing anytime soon. Not sure I'll ever be back at this rate. MTash. Thoughts? I feel like sunsetting isn't quite what we hoped for. The reintro of gear to make loot relevant seems off. Regrinding for the same stuff feels artificial. By the time you grind something, it's gone. In the end, we just want exciting new loot. Glad loot reissues just don't work. I don't think even with new perks. The excitement isn't there. Getting weapons back from Destiny 1 is one thing, and even that's debatable. But taking away weapons and giving them back 6 months to 2 years later is just not a satisfying pursuit. Sunsetting might work if gear was phased out and enough new gear was phased in. I get the balance / refreshness benefit of that, but gap filling with reissued phased out gear when players have god rules sitting in their vault, unable to be infused, breaks the whole concept. Paul Tassi. The idea of chasing old gear for the rest of Destiny is depressing. There's a design philosophy that even if 1% uses a piece of content, the idea that it is available lends to the magic of the game. Reissuing old stuff fixes a resource problem, but creates a player fatigue problem. Destin Legary. This is all just essentially the allegory of the boiling frog. The boiling frog is a fable describing a frog being slowly boiled alive. The premise is that if a frog is suddenly put into boiling water, it'll jump out. But if the frog is put into tepid water, which is then brought up to a boil, it'll not perceive danger and it'll be cooked to death. The Destiny community are the frogs, and monetization is the slowly boiling pot of water. The current state of the cash shop and its relation to the player base is fundamentally one of the only instances in which Bungie cannot be blamed for the state of the game. You guys ready for some harsh truth? Because we're about to explore some harsh truth. If, and I do mean if, people didn't run to the cash shop every week, every month, every fucking DLC and or event, like salivating dogs, looking for scraps of bacon that fell to the kitchen floor, and literally spend hundreds of millions of dollars a year there, then guess what? There would be no cash shop. But you know what happens when you literally spend hundreds of millions of dollars there a year? It becomes an ever-encroaching part of the game. What the fuck did you expect? Temperance? Moderation? When there's loads of money to be made? From the company who has never shown temperance or moderation when it comes to monetization.
Some people are really fucking stupid.
For fuck's sake, it's so embedded in Destiny that we have an actual menu that can be accessed at any time to get to the cash shop. I can't do that with bounties. I can't do that with my vault. I can't clear out the postmaster. No, I need a third-party app to do that. But I sure as shit can still access the cash shop. Sure, I could be lambasting Bungie for being a greedy megacorporation.
Corps have long controlled our lives, taken lots, and now they're after our souls.
Who, might I point out, has only become worse with monetization since leaving Activision, not better. Oh hey, fanboys who swore up and down that it was Activision forcing Bungie to cram all the microtransactions into the game and be all sketchy and shit, what the fuck do you have to say now? Yep, sounds about right. Like, no shit, Sherlock. What in the unbridled, sugar-frosted clusterfuck did you microcephalic adelphates think would happen? Making excuses for subpar products and bad business practices begets more subpar products and bad business practices. Gasp, shock, horror, lightning crackle, common fucking sense. Take a bow, bitch. You're part of the fucking problem. Truth hurts, Buttercup. Brace for fucking impact. And as long as people are willing to support the cash shop, Bungie has no incentive to change. So, we have done this to ourselves.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Mark my words. If the community does not push back, this is only going to get worse.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.
And now, the conclusion.
Look at this dude. Wait till you see the... no.
It's hard for us to make this much content. It's just hard making content in general.
Do the thing. Seriously, watch this.
I am Nostradamus, the voice of God.
What's going on, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages? Joker back again once again, and today, people, I just love the taste of being right in the morning, afternoon, day, evening, whenever you're watching this. It tastes like a Pyrrhic victory. So those are clips of me taken from over the years explaining exactly how Destiny 2's monetization was going to play out. Lo and behold, here we are. Destiny is up from $80 to $100 a year with no real explanation as to why. It's not like we suddenly got more content. In fact, you could argue that Lightfall is a step down in terms of content quantity, definitely quality, from Witch Queen.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Oh, gamers are finally finding out what inflation is, which is kind of stupid as well, because isn't the universal argument for the cash shop basically more or less they could either increase the price of the games or introduce a cash shop? And it's not like the Destiny 2 cash shop is neglected when it comes to development or anything like that. No, the only thing that I can think of is with Witch Queen, Bungie introduced the Dungeon Pass with Witch Queen as a free sample in order to get people used to the idea of it being sold separately. This has the potential to sound really conspiratorial until you realize it's exactly what they did with Shadowkeep. You got the first season that you bought Shadowkeep in for free, then with Beyond Light and Witch Queen it was sold separately, and now with Lightfall you can't buy Lightfall without buying the season. The idea isn't just to get you accustomed to paying more for less, but to push players into investing 3 months to a year in advance by buying the deluxe edition. See, when you buy Bungie's mystery box sight unseen, you actually save them a lot of money. Or, you know, to quote Bungie's social media wizard, Griffin Bennett, when asked about the marketing on a season, quote, "Curious, what difference what that have made when you have, I assume, already purchased the season?" Yeah, he said the quiet part out loud. You're not supposed to say the quiet part out loud. Come on, Griffin, head in the game. That's an amateur mistake. But yeah, this is marketing 101. The more people they have buy into the collector's edition up front, the less people they have to market to between seasons. If that wasn't reason enough, there is the more pragmatic reason as well. Player retention. People who buy 3 months to a year of content in advance are more likely to play that content, even if they're unsatisfied with the current state of the game, sunken cost fallacy and all. And because those players have stuck around, it's more likely that you can sell them microtransactions than not. Somebody who is playing the game, even if they're disgruntled, still may buy something because they like it. The thought process being, I hope the game gets better, and when it does, I have this thing. Speaking from personal experience with Halo Infinite, I got the most recent season pass because it's spy armor, and I hope one day it's worth playing. All I'm saying is I get the mentality, I think we've all done this at one point or another. I mean, how many people spent money in Anthem because they thought that was going to be a thing? Yeah, talk about hoping against all odds, but I digress. And so for these reasons, it's in Bungie's best interest to make the deluxe edition look better by comparison. In comparison to what, you might ask? Well, buying everything individually. With Witch Queen, it was a $20 wait-and-see dungeon tax. However, with Lightfall, the price of the deluxe edition went up to $100, allowing Bungie to have their cake and eat it too. But this did create a bit of a problem, because what exactly is the value proposition with the $20 more expensive Lightfall Deluxe Edition? More so when compared to Witch Queen, Shadowkeep, Beyond Light, or Forsaken before it, Lightfall really doesn't demonstrate its value. The seasonal content doesn't even look better because, well, it's full of reskinned weapons, which makes things awkward when Bungie increases the price of the seasonal content. So you can either pay $100 up front, or between $105 to $120 over the course of the year. See, what Bungie has done in order to create perceived value is increase the base price of each seasonal piece of content by $2, except it's not really just $2, it's $5, except that's not accurate either. And the confusion on this is actually to Bungie's benefit because it creates this false value proposition. So right now the narrative around the season pass increase is that each season went from $10 to $12, except Bungie doesn't offer a 1200 silver bundle. This is one of those classic, never offer players exactly what they need, so they're always under or over and have to buy more. At time of recording, the only way to get 1200 silver is to buy the $5 and $10 bundles. This means after you're done buying Season of the Deep, you're left over with 400 silver. Now, of course, this is enough that if you only buy the $10 bundles, you're okay for the rest of the year. So technically speaking, the year's only gone up $5, but also $20 at the same time. And the reality is probably something a little more in the middle that Bungie's actually counting on. Just like somebody who buys a year of content is more likely to play the year of content, which makes them more likely to spend money in the cash shop because they're playing the game, somebody who has silver on their account is more likely to spend money in the cash shop, or buy a season pass rank for 100 silver. This actually goes back to something the former EA president said over a decade ago.
When you are 6 hours into playing Battlefield and you run out of ammo in your clip and we ask you for $1 to reload, you're really not very price sensitive at that point in time.
Now, while the analogy of reloading your weapon for $1 might sound absurd, I'm willing to bet that there are a lot of people who are on various weapon grinds that, if they had 100, 200, 300, 400 silver on their account, probably wouldn't think twice about spending 100 or 200 to level up their season pass easier for a deep sight harmonizer so they can get that red border weapon that they're grinding for a little bit sooner.
I'd buy that for $1.
Doesn't sound so crazy when it's put that way, now does it? And yet I've still seen a lot of people say, "But Joker, why would somebody buy a skip?" Which is just ridiculous because clearly a lot of people are buying them. It used to be that you could only buy season ranks at the end of a season. Now you can buy them at the very beginning of the season, and there's not one, but 2 bundles to buy 10 ranks at a time. So anybody who thinks that people aren't buying these skips, they're in abject denial of reality. I almost guarantee that people are spending a lot of money on this feature. Maybe not to the point of buying an entire season pass outright, but if they have leftover silver, 100 here, 100 there, yeah, most definitely. And that is one of the things that Bungie is counting on, because if they can't get you with something in the cash shop that you want to buy, they might be able to tempt you with a time saver. And what happens if you end up spending all 400 silver? Then I guess next season is $15 as well. Maybe you learn your lesson, maybe you're tempted again. Regardless, Bungie is hedging their bets, trying to get more money out of you in the long run.
I am shocked! Shocked! Well, not that shocked.
Though I can't necessarily blame Bungie for this, because it's a trick as old as commerce. I think one of the more famous versions of this is there's never enough hot dogs for hot dog buns, or never enough hot dog buns for hot dogs. Now, before fanboys or detractors or whatever you people want to call yourselves jump down into the comments and go, "But Joker, don't buy," and break their brains regurgitating one of the 5 pre-programmed responses they have, this isn't actually a criticism of Bungie. This is a criticism of the community that allows it to happen. Or should I say incentivizes it.
Some people are really fucking stupid.
I mean, think about it. You're Bungie. You're a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Your entire goal is to make profit. If you can sell 2 sets of armor for the exact same price as a yearly DLC, why would you ever put the time, effort, and resources into making another Taken King or Forsaken? You can just make 2 sets of armor and make way more profit. But Joker, Bungie said it's impossible for them to make another Forsaken. Can you believe that there's actually people who believe that? One, you can just look at the history of how Destiny was made, and it kinda sorta doesn't make sense when Bungie says that. What do I mean? Both versions of Destiny 1 that we know about were put together relatively quickly. So I think it's pretty common knowledge that most people know the version of Destiny 1 that we got was smaller than the original Joseph Staten version that was scrapped, with much of that cut content making up Year 1 and some of Taken King. Destiny 1 released in fall of 2014 and had a couple of alphas and betas along the way. That's actually kind of an important detail, as alpha and beta builds take a significant investment of resources to create. The studio is taking a vertical slice of the game and polishing it to the point where it's almost finished, which of course takes resources away from the development of the game. Also, Bungie can create a marketing gimmick. Now, something interesting that a lot of people might not know is that the Tiger engine didn't finish development until July 1st, 2012, meaning that no production on content could start before then. And by December 15th, 2013, they created a game that could be played from start to finish on 3 platforms that they had never worked on before, with tools that they had just finished creating. All this work was taken, rebooted, the story was scrapped, a new raid was created, alpha and beta builds for commercial use were created, Bungie management went on a marketing tour. Oh yeah, and management was shifted around because the lead writer and the lead composer for the franchise were, as they say, no longer at the company. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not here to argue as to whether or not Destiny 1 was good or not. The release date of Destiny 1 was abysmal. I don't think anyone is ever going to argue that. But one does have to wonder what we would have gotten had Bungie stuck to their original plan. There was clearly a lot of mismanagement that led to the release date of Destiny 1. But does Bungie have that same excuse nearly a decade later? I mean, from what we understand of Destiny 1's development, Bungie developed a lot of content with tools they just created on platforms they never worked on in a relatively short amount of time. And now with over a decade of working on the Destiny franchise under their belt, you're telling me this is the best they can do? They can't make more content than what we get because reasons? Because they said it was impossible? Of course, that begs the question, is it impossible because it's impossible? Or is it impossible because they said it was impossible and refused to devote the resources into making it possible? I'm sure I don't need to explain to anyone that those are two extremely different things. I talk about this in the Marathon video that I'm working on, but hypothetically speaking, Marathon is everything Bungie wishes Destiny was. What do I mean? Well, at its core, what is an extraction shooter? It's a PvE, PvP game, where the objective is to go out in the open world and collect loot to customize your character or weapons. Sounds kind of like Destiny, but not really. That's where the brilliance of the extraction shooter comes into play. Instead of creating all this content, raids, dungeons, strikes, PvP maps, story modes, horde mode 356, tons of loot, tons of armor. Okay, well, maybe not tons of loot and tons of armor, but you know. With Marathon, all they have to do is create a sandbox experience. Make a relatively large map with some PvE enemies and objectives, built around getting new loot and kitting your character out, all while players run around trying to find and kill one another. It's a relatively low maintenance concept with the exception of going in and balancing weapons and abilities and whatnot, provided something like abilities are even a thing. That only requires Bungie to occasionally create new areas while creating tons of loot for both the in-game and the cash shop. It's a very minimalistic idea where the player creates the story and the fun, all while Bungie makes tons of profit because of the cash shop. And Marathon will have a cash shop. I think Marathon having a cash shop, a season pass, and being free to play is a foregone conclusion at this point. But I digress, point being, this is the type of game that Bungie wants to make, and if it's successful, ooh boy. Ooh boy. But that's a realization for another video, and like I've already said, I digress. Now, while this may seem like a fascinating tangent, other than serving as a Pyrrhic victory lap for the Joker is Always Right Foundation, and having a good laugh at the state of monetization in Destiny 2, which is always enjoyable, what exactly is the point of this video? Well, at the end of the day, while Bungie is more than capable of creating Forsaken style DLCs, the reality is they don't have to, because it's shown to be far more profitable to concentrate on remixing and recycling older content while they inevitably update the cash shop with every DLC, season, holiday, or made-up event. Because there is a dedicated subset of customers that will spend enough money to make sure that this model is far more profitable than sinking a bunch of time, money, and resources into making Forsaken style DLCs. I mean, sure, that might sound counterintuitive to some people in that, but Joker, 1 million people would pre-order a Forsaken style DLC. Only a couple 100,000 might spend money in the cash shop. Yeah, but I don't think I have to remind anyone it's easier to make $20 worth of armor than it is to make a $40 expansion. And I don't mean for that to sound condescending, I think virtually everyone understands this. But sometimes you just have to point out the obvious to drive the point home. And let's be real, let's be honest, let's be real honest for a moment, around 1 million people are going to pre-order the fucking DLC anyway. Bungie gets to have their cake and eat it too. And there's not enough people who are going to walk away from the game all at once to ever change that. Now, you would be forgiven for thinking the perfectly logical conclusion to all of this. If, hypothetically speaking, players are not going to boycott the game because they have some form of emotional attachment to it, then why not try to get people to boycott the cash shop? Well, because I don't think it's the average player making a significant contribution to supporting the cash shop. The people who just buy the base game or the deluxe edition, maybe. And I mean mean, maybe. These people spend 20, 30, 40, even upwards, if we're gonna get crazy, $100 a year. These people really aren't the issue. The people who are the issue are the people who are buying everything from the cash shop either day one or over the course of the season. And hey, don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna tell you what to do with your money. If you wanna spend hundreds of dollars a season to buy everything in the cash shop, more power to you. But actions have consequences. And I have seen the Reddit threads where people are like, I was gonna go spend a bunch of money in the cash shop, but it's actually kind of greedy this season. How did this happen? Why is Bungie's monetization out of hand?
Congratulations, you played yourself.
But Joker, this doesn't happen. I don't know if this is just naivety on the part of the Destiny community, or if they're just in abject denial of reality, or don't pay attention to gaming outside of Destiny. But a bunch of people spending thousands of dollars a year in Destiny, well, is nothing when you compare it to other games.
Look at his fucking pearls. 1.2 million? Wait a second. Okay, how much do you, it's 6,000 plus 1,200? He's sitting on 16 grand just sitting there? That's money right off the top. That's...
Some people are really fucking stupid.
Been a part of a game called Clash of Clans, have over 6 figures invested into it.
What the fuck? How do you spend 100 grand on a fucking video game?
We got some dumbass motherfuckers floating around this country.
Basically, Rich had invested, I don't know what he invested, like 15,000 bucks or something.
Dumbass motherfuckers.
In 2022, Honor of Kings made $1.65 billion. Genshin Impact made $1.25 billion. PUBG Mobile, $1.12 billion. Then there's what people spend in FIFA or GTA Online. There are far more people spending ludicrous amounts of money in Destiny than I think most people would like to admit. And this isn't even considering the hundreds of dollars people spend on recovery services. Now, to be 100% clear, recovery services have nothing to do with Bungie, and Bungie, to their credit, has done a lot to try to stamp these services out. The point being, however, is that people are willing to spend hundreds of dollars to have somebody else play the game for them because reasons? As longtime viewers might recall, or anybody who's paid attention to video game news, you may have heard about Sony's acquisition of Bungie. The whole point of Bungie being acquired by Sony was to help Sony develop 10 to 12 games as a service games by 2025. This total of games as a service games may or may not include the recently announced Marathon. About a week ago or so at time of recording, it was reported that Bungie had reviewed the Last of Us PvP game and found it wanting. Sony has invested heavily in games as a service, or video games designed to be monetized beyond their initial sales through ongoing purchases. As part of that push, it asked another of its video game studios, Seattle-based Bungie, to evaluate the games across its portfolio. Bungie raised questions at The Last of Us multiplayer project's ability to keep players engaged for long periods of time, which led to the reassessment. Now, while I could make any number of jokes about Bungie's qualifications to talk about anyone's PvP game, the reality is, it doesn't matter. The reality is, Bungie has enough say in the development of Sony Entertainment games that Sony will delay or reevaluate entire franchises based on Bungie's opinion. That is quite literally a large portion of the industry following Bungie's vision as dictated to them by Bungie. And given that Destiny is a minimally viable product that is overly monetized and spends most of its time in a beta state, well...
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.
But hey, those are just my thoughts, so let me know yours in the comments below. Remember to like, but only if you did. Subscribe for more. Feel free to donate to my Patreon if you're feeling particularly generous. And above all else, stay frosty.